It's not yet. It's live broadcast from the library of Mythical Ireland. Good evening. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. I'm Anthony Murphy, your host. For the next hour to hour and a half, we will be delving into Irish mythology, specifically the story of the Irish Iliad, or the conquest of the Gael, also known as the Milesians. Hope you are all in good form and feeling great. This is episode number 226, I believe. It is a beautiful sunny evening here in the Boyne Valley, as has been the case for the last few live streams. The sun is shining directly in the window, which is why the blind is down at this time of year. Between Bealtaine and Lunasa, the sun is far enough in the northwest to shine directly into the library here. Welcome, welcome. If you're joining us watching on Facebook or on YouTube, please do feel free to say hello in the chat, in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook. I will do my best to read out all the comments, give you a nice big welcome. It's been a while. It's been 6 days, actually, because last week's live stream was delayed by a day. First to say hello tonight is Native Tea, who I do not believe has been on the live streams before. You're very welcome. Fáilte more from me and all the Tua. I'm sure you will receive a very warm welcome. Watching on YouTube, good afternoon and blessings from Pennsylvania in the USA. Fantastic stuff. Are you over in the east near Philadelphia, or are you over towards Pittsburgh or somewhere else? It's great to see you. Welcome on board. Northman is in the house, presumably watching from one of the Scandinavian countries. Perhaps you are a Viking. No. Fáilte, Sláinte, Trenonoa. Wayne Bird says, hope everyone is well. Well, yes, I put the word very in there because I tend to use superlatives. Looking forward to seeing Venus close to the moon. Yes, actually, good point. As soon as the stream is finished, I hope to get a photograph of that. Mandy McCurl has joined us from a sunny and cold Isle of Mull. I refuse to believe that it can possibly be cold on the Isle of Mull, Mandy. No, I picture the Isle of Mull like one of those Greek islands in the Mediterranean. I am, of course, joking, but you're very, very welcome, and I hope you are keeping well since we last saw you. Lily Shambles is wishing YouTube would give notifications. Yeah, I'm just wondering, there should be... Is it a bell? Forgive me for not knowing exactly. Let me just watch the live stream on YouTube. Of course, because yeah, can't subscribe to. I'm already subscribed to my own channel. There should be a notifications bell or something like that you click. But yeah, that's an issue because people don't know it's on. They might miss it. But it is recorded for watching back. Sean Padders in the house from Knocknashee in the Tuatha of Luine, the tribe of Lou. Brilliant stuff. And I hope it's a lovely evening over in Sligo direction, Sean. Yeah, tech, says Lily, just doesn't seem to like me. Well, at least you have the option of checking Facebook, which is an alternative. Rex Fortenberry is in the house. Banachty Anthony and Tua Mighty. Oh, Louisiana, you're very welcome on board. Rex, thank you for joining us. Barbara Murphy is saying hello from a nice and sunny Tucson, Arizona. Spread it around. That's what I say. Sláinte, Barbara. Nora Gaffney O'Connor is in the house. Hello, Gia. Ye are all looking so well. Yes, we must do another Zoom where we can actually see each other. Nora, I hope you're in good form as you ever are. I've never known you not to be in good form, to be honest. Alan Hoskins is saying hello from the Tip Clare border. Loch Derg and the Shannon looking resplendent in the glorious sunshine. Hope all well. Good stuff, Alan. Welcome, welcome. Astro is saying hello all. Geoguch Astro Archaeoastronomy database in the house. The moon is waxing again. Yes, indeed. And apparently we're going to see the moon. While I'm reading the comments, pardon me, I'm opening Stellarium just to see how close the moon is to Venus tonight. I should have really been looking this up last night, but anyway, we'll see. Okay, it's not massively close. What is that, about 10 moon widths away? Okay, what's it like tomorrow evening then? Gone past. Yeah, the next two nights look good, but it's clear here tonight. So the point is that we might get an opportunity to actually see it because it was completely cloudy last night. Marcia Downs is fascinated by this history and truly looking forward to this one. Hope all are well out there. Anthony, Tom, etc. et al. All good here, Marcia. I hope you're in good form. Thanks for joining us and for saying hello. Joan E. Hendricks is in North Florida. Hello, Joan. Not sure if we've seen you before. A very big welcome to you. Thanks for joining the live stream. Welcome to the library. Please make yourself comfortable. Find a comfy chair, a mug of tea or a brew or maybe a dram, and a blanket if you need one, nice comfy slippers, a pipe maybe, whatever, Joan, you're very welcome. Anya Ryan is in the house. Hello, Anya. Welcome back to Live Irish Myths. Great to see you as always. Native Tree says, yeah, I'm right outside above Philadelphia. I have family in County Mayo. Wonderful stuff. A beautiful part of Ireland and indeed a beautiful part of the world. Lily Shambles saying, one of the reasons I like to watch is you always seem to have the sun whilst we have cloud when you're doing a live. Yes, and it's funny because it's not always like that in Ireland, as many an Irish person will tell you. Mariana Dunn says, Banathy, dear Tua and Anthony from sunny Alexandria, Virginia. Excited to be visiting the Boyne Valley in about 1 month, and I am looking forward to meeting you in person, Mariana, for one of our mural tours. So throughout the summer, on Saturday mornings, June, July, August, every Saturday at 12 noon, myself and Grania Rafferty, who's a local storyteller, will be leading tours of the mythological murals in Drogheda, and I'm looking forward to meeting Mariana on one of those. Desiree Riley says, hello to all the Tua. Me and Amadeus are happy to be tuning in. Hope all are well. Well, I hear Saskia yelping in the distance. I'm sure it won't be too long before Coda says hello. Lynn Foley is watching from sunny El Paso, which is in New Mexico, is it? Or is it Nevada? It's not Nevada. Texas? Texas. Oh my God. Texas. Oh, I'm sure it's hot over there, Lynn. You might tell us what the temperature is before Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter. Actually, Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter is in Ireland, so she won't be able to do her usual bragging about. It's probably in the high 70s there, Lynn. I'm sure. It seems to be always nice, hot in Texas. Astro, as a Gemini, I'm glad to see Mars move on its way, as well as welcome Venus and Luna for a visit. Yeah, you may have noticed recently a sort of Orion's belt on a large scale happening with Castor and Pollux and Mars. Very interesting alignment there. Joe Butler, Auntie Joe's in Colorado. I hope everyone is well and ready for the myth. Joe, if you haven't done so already, you might share the stream to the Mythical Ireland community and Mythical Ireland creatives, but I'm sure that's a redundant request. I'm sure you've done it already, as you always do. Thank you for that. Forgive me for Anne McCallum is pointing out that I made a sorry, my nose is itchy. It's not that I'm telling lies. Body language experts say if a person's doing this with their nose, they're telling lies. I made a mistake with the times earlier on. Eastern should have been 3 p.m., not 5 p.m. Apologies for that. Anna L is in, I presume, in Balbriggan, Tranonoa. Anthony and the Tua. Well, welcome on board, Anna. Great to see you. Kelly Nikeli is saying greetings from the Emerald City to the Emerald Isle. Where is the Emerald City? You're in the Pacific Northwest. Forgive me for not knowing that. That's crazy of me not to know that. Seattle. I knew that, but I had to check. Nora Gaffney says, thank you, Anthony. The $5 in the post. Brilliant stuff. Alva Kelly. Oh, that is, sorry, for the newcomers. Every comment I read out, you have to pay me a $5. Joke, of course. Alva Kelly says, Bannockty, it's great to be back in Anthony's virtual library. Well, for me, it's very real. These books are actually physical items, but yeah. I'm very glad to welcome you all along. Speaking of Mediterranean islands, there's John Main, the main man. Bannockty to all the two. I hope you're all doing good. Apologies for being late. Just putting the umbrella away. John, all I can say is you seem to bring the rain everywhere you go. I'm sure one of these days the sun is going to shine, and you're finally going to put it all behind you. Kibble Henge is saying, "Good evening, Anthony and Tribe." Well, a very good evening to you also. From Drone Henge to Kibble Henge. Ah, yes. Henry Macaulay is in sunny Edinburgh. Well, I hope the sun is shining and it's nice. You get longer evenings than us in the summer because you're a little bit further north. But of course, you get shorter days in the winter. But let's not talk about that. Anne McCallum is saying, hello, Anton and the Mighty Two. I hope everything's good form. We're enjoying a lovely sunny 21 Celsius. Now, that is bragging. For the last day of our long weekend, I presume it's a bank holiday, a public holiday. Oh, sorry. Recently had dinner. When I was driving home last night, a huge, gorgeous orange sun suddenly appeared. It was truly a magnificent but fleeting spectacle as it was quickly consumed by the clouds. Sounds nice. Sounds lovely, Anne. But spread it around. We all like sunshine. Mavanway Millward is in the house. So glad to catch you this time. Very behind with all the stories now. Well, that's okay. We're kind of starting a new one. Well, we covered the Milesians and the Tuatha Dé Danann over the last couple of episodes, but I'm sure you don't have too much to catch up on. Not like the newcomers, for instance, the new viewers tonight who have 225 episodes to catch up on. Sarah Murray Anderson is in the house from Ennismore in Ontario. See you on June the 5th. Looking forward to that. Oh, for the Fornox tour. Wow. So you're in Ontario, but you'll be here for the Fornox tour. Brilliant stuff, Sarah. Super, super. Looking forward to meeting you. Lynn Foley is saying Texas, 87 Fahrenheit, 30.56 Celsius. Wow. Time to climb in the icebox and shut the door. Sandra Boothroyd is in the house. Trononawa. Sandra Sláinte Fáilte. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Archaeastronomy Database tells us that last night Venus made a perfect isosceles triangle with Castor and Pollux, the twins of Gemini. For those who are not familiar, pretty good tonight too. Brilliant stuff. Yes, we shall have to try and get a photograph of that. Yes, the sunny village of Balbriggan I'm in, says Anna L. Greetings. Brilliant stuff. Delighted to hear that the sun is shining all round the place this evening. Northman is saying, could you see the email I wrote? A message. I will be grateful for an answer. Forgive me. Yes, I'm not sure that I did, actually. You might just resend mythicalireland@gmail.com. Apologies for that. I do get a lot of correspondence. Don't always get around to answering it in a short space of time due to my many commitments, but I always do my best to answer each and every message and email. Brendan Byrne is saying, good evening from Glendalough, back from Cork to my beloved mountains and ready for more stories and dad jokes. Hello, Anthony. Well, the dad jokes are extra, Brendan. You know, I know that you are all writing them down so that you can use them with your friends and relatives, you know. Anyway, that's me caught up on the comments for now. We are 10 minutes in already, 49 people watching. Let me just make sure that the phone is on silent. And just to talk, before we begin tonight's story, a little bit about the public tours. So, last Thursday, I announced that I would host 3 tours of Fornox on the bank holiday Monday. In Ireland, the 5th of June is the June bank holiday. It's a public holiday. The reason I'm holding 3 rather than 1 big tour is to limit the numbers because of the lack of parking in the vicinity of the monument. Those tours sold out in a matter of about 6 hours. I then added an extra date the following Sunday, the 11th of June, 2 tours in the afternoon, and they sold out within a couple of hours. So all I can say in relation to the public tours is watch this space. Please keep a very close eye on the social media. If you're on the mailing list, please do subscribe to the mailing list on the website. That's very easy to do. Subscribe to our emails is a form that is on every page of the Mythical Ireland website, usually down near the bottom. You just type in your email address and hit the arrow, and you should be subscribed to our mailing list. However, the success of the Fornox tours was such that they sold on the basis of social media alone. However, I have in the planning a series of public tours over the course of the summer, a lot of public tours. Some of those will be to Fornox, some of those will be to Douth, some of those will be to the Hill of Tara, one or two to locations that shall not yet be identified. In particular, I am working on the possibility of something that I consider to be very exciting, actually, a tour that has never been done before and would offer the opportunity for people to visit monuments and hear stories in a landscape where they wouldn't have been able to do so before. I can't say exactly where, not yet, while the final details are being processed, are being organized. We're crossing T's and dotting I's. All I can say is that due to the phenomenal response to the public tours, which I began late in the latter part of last year, it is clear to me that people want guided tours of sites. They want to hear the myths and legends. They want to hear about the astronomical alignments. They want to hear about the archaeology and the fascinating history of these places. And they want to do so in the company of, I hope this doesn't sound like boasting, a knowledgeable and experienced guide. I've been studying this stuff for 24 years, so I'd like to think I've learned a thing or two along the way. Anyway, please do keep an eye if you're interested at all in that sort of thing. Because of the rapid sellout rate of the tours, I would invite you to maybe keep a very close eye on the social media. When I say social media, I mean the Mythical Ireland Facebook page, the Mythical Ireland community on Facebook, and Mythical Ireland Creatives. Also, Mythical Ireland on Instagram and Mythical Ireland on Twitter, because they're the places that I would advertise these first and foremost, but also the mailing list. So there are, if everything goes well, there are going to be a lot of public tours this summer, and I look forward to meeting many of you on those tours. As I say, for the moment, I am working on something that I consider to be unique and very exciting. It will be a prime offering. Is that the word? It'll be what's the word? It'll be a deluxe, because of the nature of it, because it's something that hasn't been done before. But anyway, to the couple of people on Facebook who took issue with the notion of, how did I feel about profiting from, tours of sites? It's not. It's like, well, you call it profit, I call it making a living. This is what I want to do for a living, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive. There's always a couple of people who will be naysayers, and there's always a couple of people who will say, profiting from heritage. Well, there are thousands of professional tour guides in Ireland. Are they supposed to give up their careers because somebody's uncomfortable with the idea that they're making a living from being professional tour guides, having spent years studying their specialist subjects? I don't think so. Anyway, that's enough of that. A friend of ours is saying hello from Siberia. The weather is finally bearable here. Would be happy to spread around our 24 plus Celsius if anyone's interested. Oh, wow. We will take a few of those degrees. I do apologize that I don't read, is it Cyrillic? So I'm not exactly sure what your name is, for which I apologize. If you can spell it out for us in English, I would be only too happy to say hello properly. Alva Kelly is saying, well, Anthony, you should be conducting tours on a daily basis for a living. Well, that's the hope and the aim, Alva. Absolutely. I love it. I love what I do. I love it. And I've never had a tour where somebody at the end has said, we're not happy. We didn't feel we learned something. Or we, nothing negative at all, actually. Yes, Anne McCallum. Yes, there were a couple of people. No, look, they didn't stick with it. They weren't. I explained, that, what you call profiting, I call making a living. And I think that when I explained, they were okay with that. Teresa is saying, we are usually watching at 12 noon from Oregon, but guess what? We're in Ireland tonight. Yay! Whereabouts are you, Teresa? Please tell us. What part of Ireland are you in? And welcome, welcome, welcome. Céad Míle Fáilte, 100,000 welcomes to the Emerald Isle, this ancient land of ours. Brendan Byrne, has Anthony started a mythical snowball that is heading down the hill? I would always be happy to pay for a good guide. You learn so much more. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, I mean, in the case of Fornox, for full disclosure, in the case of Fornox, you can go to the key holders, the White family, and pay a deposit of €20, get the key, go off to the monument and explore it on your own. And that's a lovely experience, by the way. Highly recommended. And then return the key and you get your money back. So you don't have to pay anything. So you can go to Fornox for free. So there is absolutely no issue about that. However, if you want to go to Fornox and hear about its history, the date of it, the context of it, possible mythology of the area, the other monuments in the area, how it links in with other complexes like Brunabonia and Loch Crew, for instance, and all of that stuff, and hear about genetics, hear about the archaeological excavations of the 1950s, hear about the reconstruction of it, hear about what was found, all of that stuff, then that's a different story, isn't it? Teresa says, we started in Dublin and now we're in Kerry. We absolutely adore Ireland. Brilliant stuff. Kerry is a beautiful part of the world. Absolutely beautiful. I wonder if you get a chance to go on the lakes in a boat. I did that years ago with my wife, and we enjoyed it. Astra says, profit, lol, we're getting a master's level education on Irish folklore for free here. A physical tour with this level of insight is well worth the price. Look, yeah, I don't want to harp on about it because that sounds like I'm moaning and it sounds like I'm entitled or whatever. I didn't want to sort of draw too much attention to it, but I just did think that it was interesting because I have a huge number of friends in the Independent Tour Guides Association, of which I am a member, and they are all making a living from what they do. They, like I, have invested years in studying and learning and have a passion about it and love guiding people around, and people love the tours that they give. So it's value for money in my view. However, if you're not happy, your money back and all that. I've yet to meet anybody who has ever said, Anthony, I wasn't happy with your tour. Can I have my money back? So I suppose that is a litmus test, as it were, a barometer. I have not seen Ongawa in the comments. Mr. King, he was busy fraternizing at Slane Castle with all the high and mighty and the hoi polloi over the weekend. Being a king, the king of the castle, as I say to him. Looks like he had a great time, by the way. And those sun pendants of his are doing very well. Now, I want to say on that front, because I have had a number of queries. It's funny when someone says a number, that could be one, but it's between a half a dozen and a dozen queries from people saying the sun pendants, I don't see them on the website. Where can we get them? And that's simply because the sun pendants that Tom has made up to date were on sale at Ishnock and then at the Slane Viking Festival. And he's now going to be in a position to offer them on the website. We'll be putting them on the website hopefully in the coming week. As soon as that's done, I will share the link to Facebook and YouTube, Twitter and Instagram and the mailing list. Pardon me. So we just need to give Tom a little bit of time to make more. Slane Castle. Well, there was a Viking festival at Slane Castle over the weekend, Brendan, and Tom was taking part, showing off his beautiful craftsmanship, and he brought the mace. You know, that big mace, the ball with the spikes on a chain hanging from a club. Do you know what? People absolutely love that. They come along and they pick it up and they get their photo taken with our Tom, and it's brilliant, you know. Helen Hirsch has snuck into the back of the class. Well, you are absolutely perfect in your timing. Why? Because I'm just about to start reading. That's why. Perfect timing, Helen. So, as we always say, a wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to, or a wizardess, in this case, arrives precisely when she means to. Siobhan Edwards is in Derry. My first time with you, so thanks. Is there a talk tonight? Yes, just about to start. Siobhan, you are very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Very happy to see newcomers to the live stream. And I hope it's sunny in Derry because it seems to be sunny in the rest of the island. And yes, I am about to start reading what Charles Squire calls the Irish Iliad, which is, of course, the story of the conquest of the Milesians, who came from Spain to take Ireland from the Tuatha Dé Danann in mythology. I'm reading, of course, from a modern reprint, Mythology of Celtic People, of what was originally called Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance, published in 1912, over a century ago. Just to say, on the patronage front, you'll see this ticker scrolling along the bottom. I'm working on an article at the moment that will be published for patrons shortly. And that article is all about what I call the giants of Irish mythological scholarship. All of the people over the last few centuries who basically translated and promulgated the Irish mythology from medieval manuscripts and made it accessible to us. And the whole reason we're able to do live streams today is to a large extent based on the work of amazing scholars of the past. J.C.H. Smith is saying hello from Huntsville, Alabama. A good afternoon to all the Alabamans in the house. Fantastic to see you. And please do feel at home. Did I say hello to Denise Cassidy? Hello, Denise in Belfast. Good evening to you. Very warm welcome. Kathleen Gallagher is saying hello all. Kathleen, you're very welcome. Pat Lake O'Connolly is in southern Vermont. A very good afternoon to you, Pat. Adina Sparks is in the house. Happy it's Monday. I think everybody is. And you know what? The sun seems to be shining pretty much everywhere except for where John Main is. John, forgive me. Please, I will stop slagging you about that eventually. What you should do now is tell me constant lies, no matter what the weather is doing in Crete. Tell me, oh, Anthony, the sun is splitting the stones here. I'm basking in the warmth. Anna L wants to know who is moaning about the price. Actually, yeah, one lady who was looking for a ticket for €4 said, Anthony, you're not charging enough. I said, I thought that €12 for an adult for a 1 hour and 15-minute tour is probably more than, probably as much as I would want to charge, to be honest. Spike Willow has joined us. Hello again, Spike Willow. Thank you for saying hello in the chat. We will get on with things. I have to put on my reading glasses. I am getting to that stage where they all, as an old brass band conductor used to say, the lamps are not as good as they used to be, which is a convenient way for a conductor to who has made a slight mistake to say, yes, blame it on the old lamps are not as good as they used to be. You know, not that this conductor made much mistakes. He was quite brilliant. Okay, I think I'm up to date with all of the people. If I missed anybody, apologies. You're all welcome regardless. With Ever and Eramon. So Ever is E-B-E-R, but of course, it being between two vowels, it would have the shevu on it, which would be E-B-H-E-R, which would be pronounced E-V-E-R. With Ever and Eramon, there's an argument to be made that Eramon should be Eravon, because, again, the M lenited in Middle Irish sounded like a V, in Modern Irish sounds like a W, Eravon. So I'll do my best with the pronunciations, but you have to remember that this is a version of the language that was current probably about 800 years ago. And I wasn't around back then, so I couldn't be sure about the pronunciations. With Ever and Eramon, sons of Meal, and conquerors of the gods, begins a fresh series of characters in Gaelic tradition, the early Milesian kings of Ireland. Of course, the reason they're called Milesian is because the sons of Mil, M-I-L or M-I-L-E, who was the king of Spain, were the ones who conquested Ireland. And of course, their descendants reigned. And in recent centuries, folklore has always held that the Irish were descended from the Gaels, or the Milesians, as they're also known. Though monkish chroniclers have striven to find history in the legends handed down concerning them, they are nonetheless almost as mythical as the Tuatha Dé Danann. I don't necessarily agree with that. There's a in my view, very interesting. That sounds again very inflated. I'm just going to find this blog post, which I think you might be interested in relation to the Beaker people and their replacement of the Neolithic people, and whether this is remembered in Irish mythology. Something maybe for you to read when the episode is finished. I will paste that as a link in here. Hopefully you will see that on YouTube and on Facebook. Adrian Beglin Adrian O'Beglin, Lavasus. I'm joking. Adrian, you're very, very welcome. And don't worry about sneaking in late. That's no problem. Your name has been noted. Lee Farrelly says the islands of Dingle are great. Yeah. In fact, our Irish islands have a distinct mysticism to them. I've been on a fair number of Irish islands, offshore islands. They're amazing places. So just throwing this out there, right? Tom King put this idea into my head. I'm deadly serious, by the way. If I think there's a demand, I will do it. Now, there'll be a cost. What would you think about hiring a bus, driving to Donegal, and getting the boat over to Tory Island and going up to Doon It's an amazing place. I was there in 2015, 2016. It's the most incredible island. There isn't a single tree growing on it. It's very rugged, and it is the mythological home place of Balor, of the Fomorians, the place where he imprisoned his daughter Ethna, knowing that there was a prophecy that his own grandson would kill him. He imprisoned her in a tower there. But there is a place on the northeastern end of Tory Island called Doon Valor, and it's up on cliffs. It's a bit of a hike, but it's lovely. It's not that steep. A certain level of fitness would be required. Yeah, this is the sort of stuff I'm thinking about. The tours of like Douth and Fornox and Tara, they'll happen anyway. But I'm thinking about bigger things, about bringing a group to the likes of Tory, bringing a group maybe up Croagh Patrick, bringing a group to Carrow Keel, perhaps bringing a group to Rathcroghan, bringing a group to Ishnock. I know that the good people at Ishnock were very receptive last year. We were supposed to have a Mythical Ireland community outing to Ishnock last year, but it was suspended because I got COVID just when it was supposed to happen, Fiona Newman is saying hello from Ontario in Canada, normally residing in Kilyeaglon in Gundinamee. Fiona, good to see you. Hope you are in good form. A very good afternoon to you from the Boyne Valley. So the full Irish says, fecking grand idea. Yeah, leave it with me. I'm serious. There's going to be some. When is the backpacking trip of Bridget's Way? The easiest way to, it's early July usually. The easiest way to find that out actually is to go to the website bridgetsway.ie, and all of the details are there. I'm hoping to participate in at least part of that this year, as I usually do. I usually at least attend at least one day of it. The first of them who has the least appearance of reality is Círnmhas, or Círnmas, who is recorded to have reigned 100 years after the coming of the Milesians. He seems to have been what is sometimes called a culture king, bearing much the same kind of relation to Ireland as Theseus bore to Athens or Minos to Crete. By the way, this is a 30-page chapter. It's highly likely that this will be at the very least 2 episodes, if not 3 episodes. Brendan says, Donegal is amazing and beautiful. The time has stood still up there, weather permitting. Yeah. On the boat ride out, the sea was flat calm. The island looked really clear. It looked like it was a mile away, not 9 miles. And the sea on the way back was quite stormy. Actually, I know I'm getting distracted. I know. Please allow me to get distracted. I know most of you seem to like rabbit holes and diversions. Let me just quickly search for, I made a short video on the ferry coming back from Tory on the deck of the, yeah. Let me share that with you. So if you were thinking, and I'm only just thinking about this, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. If I think there's interest, I'll do it. I'd love to bring a group of you to Tory. It is amazing. Just bear this in mind. If you don't have sea legs, this might put you off, basically. I was fine with it. I'm okay. I have sea legs for relatively short trips. But just in case you were the sort of person who got motion sickness or seasickness, it just mightn't be your thing. It's about the size of a fishing trawler, a little bit bigger maybe. So it does rock and roll around if it's at all wavy, shall we say. And apparently people love rabbit holes, like Adina Sparks and Brendan Byrne. Always good to hear. Carmel Jane Doak is saying, greetings and blessings from mythical Crete. Wow, we have 2 viewers watching from Crete. Our John Main is in Crete. Carmel, I hope you're having a great evening. By the way, it's after 10:30 at night there, so thank you for hanging around to see us. Mavanwe says, I've got sea legs. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure how much the ferry is, so we'd have to build that into the cost. Well, there'd be choices. We could all just try and meet there at the place. What's it? It's not Killybegs. No, what's the name of the place? Or Maharorty, is it? Is it Maharorty where the ferry goes to Tory? We could all just meet there on a Saturday morning, say, or a Sunday morning, or if I thought there was going to be interest, we could hire a bus, but of course a bus is going to cost 500 quid for the day. So at 50 seats, that's a tenner each just to cover the cost of the bus. Let's think about it. Let's think about it. Eamon McDonough is saying, evening all. Eamon, you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Good to see you. And Jackie Kelly Adams is there. Hello. How are things in Gort? Hope you're having a great time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks. Had a great time this day last week with you and the others. Ooh, mind you, says Mavanwe, that video looks a bit rockier than the Welsh crossing I did recently. I'm up for it though. Yeah, well, and if we go in the summer, we might get calm seas. During his reign, this is Chirnvas, 9 new lakes and 3 new rivers broke forth from beneath the earth to give their waters to Erin. This is, of course, a repeating theme in Irish mythology, the bursting forth of new rivers and lakes. Fascinating stuff, like small or mini creation stories within a wider epic. Under his auspices, gold was first smelted. Where is Tom King? He should be listening to this. Ornaments of gold and silver were first made, and clothes first dyed. He is said to have perished mysteriously with 3/4 of the men of Erin while worshipping Crom Croach on the field of my Schlecht. Crom Croach was said to have been the chief idol of Ireland and have said to have been smashed by St. Patrick using a sledgehammer. The only incident, I believe, in mythology where St. Patrick is credited with destroying a monument. There you go. Anne McCallum says, people turned green on one of the boat trips back from the Aran Islands. Nearly everyone was praying. I loved it. By the way, Inishmore, Dunangasa, absolutely unmissable. Let's put that on the agenda as well, A long drive, a night over with a good dram. Yeah, we could do that too. We could organize, let me think. Let me put my thinking cap on that one. I really would love for us to have some adventures. I'm Fornox, Tara, Douth, Brunabonia, Slane, Baltray. All of those are, a short driving distance from where I am. I love doing tours at my local sites, but let's think about going a little bit further afield on day trips, as it were. Pat is saying road trip. Yeah, that sort of thing. We had discussed during the pandemic the possibility of also doing some whiskey tasting on our journeys. Owen Martin says, we still have the remains of Crom Croach here in Cavan. Is that right? Tell me more. In him, that is in Chirnvas, Mr. Nutt, that's Alfred Nutt, who was one of the aforementioned scholars I will be writing about in my article for patrons, sees, no doubt rightly, the great mythical king who, in almost all national histories, closes the strictly mythological age and inaugurates a new era of less obviously divine, if hardly less apocryphal characters, which is an interesting thing. That, in other countries and in other mythologies, there is a decline of the gods, a taking over by the mortals, and of course a king belonging to those mortals. You can see it in Ballyjames Duff Museum. That is one I will have to put on my field trip agenda, Owen. Absolutely. Thank you for the information. Monica Regley, apologies for being late. That's okay, Monica. Just finished work. Well, that's a perfectly good excuse for being late. You're very welcome. Yes. Yes. So the Tory Island trip sounds like one that we would I think enjoy. Very, very. I'm amazed at how the people of Tory Island have lived there for generations. Do you know that There have been times, I think in the 70s, that the Atlantic was so stormy for like 3 whole months that it was impossible for any journeys to be made between the island and the mainland. Um, Nowadays, in an emergency, the Coast Guard helicopter can be used to bring sick people, for instance, to mainland hospitals in Donegal and Derry. I'm amazed at how they've clung on there, because the government, like they did with Great Blasket, the government offered a resettlement scheme to resettle the islanders on the mainland in Donegal. And the islanders said, no thanks, we're fine. We're okay with this. We've lived on this rugged island for generations. We're quite happy to stay here. I have the greatest of admiration for them for that. There's just something very special. It actually touches my heart, that stuff. Teresa Collins is in the house. Gia August Ban Gia Gwitch, Teresa. Sláinte, says Mandy, to the whiskey tour. Yes, indeed. I knew that would be popular. Yes, Lee Farrelly tells us that you can now stay overnight in the old cottage bungalows on the Blasket Islands. I've never been to the Blaskets. I would love to go. Would love to go. In spite, however, of the worship of the Tuatha Dé Danann instituted by Erimon being the first of the Milesian kings, him and his brother Ever jointly ruled over Ireland for the first year, but then they fell out, had a fight, fought to the death. Erimon killed his brother Everfin and took up the first sort of all-Ireland kingship of the Milesians, of the Milesian era. We find the early kings and heroes of Ireland walking very familiarly with their gods. Yuchi Aram, High King of Ireland, was apparently reckoned a perfectly fit suitor for the goddess Etain. That is in the story Tuchmark Etain, which we have read over several episodes of Live Irish Myths, and proved a far from unsuccessful rival of Midger, the Gaelic Pluto. And adventures of love or war were carried quite as cheerfully among the she-dwellers by Yuchi's contemporaries, Conor MacNessa, King of Ulster, Curie, son of Dara, King of Munster, Mesgegra, King of Leinster, and Eileal and Maeve, King and Queen of Connacht. All these figures of the second Gaelic cycle, that of the heroes of Ulster, and especially of their great champion Cuchulainn, lived, according to Irish tradition, at about the beginning of the Christian era. Conchobar, or Connor, indeed is said to have expired in a fit of rage on hearing of the death of Christ. Yes, insertion by ecclesiastical scribe in an old story, methinks. Yes. Oh, Monica says there's a thunderstorm there. Well, don't share that around. Monica, if you don't mind, we would ask you to please keep that to where you are. But this is a very transparent monkish interpolation into the original story. Thank you, Mr. Squire, for pointing that out, as if it wasn't already obvious. No. In fairness, people who haven't studied Irish mythology may not know that a lot of it was written down in the monasteries. A quite different view is taken by most modern scholars, who would see gods and not men in all the legendary characters of the Celtic heroic cycles, which is also fascinating. So we're that the monks perhaps tried to what's the word, euhumanize. They tried to make humans out of gods, because according to their worldview, of course, there was only one God. And anybody else was considered a deity would be considered dangerous to that belief system, Christianity, and therefore had to be dealt with in some ways. Dealt with. One of the ways that the monks dealt with the gods was to make them humans and to make them die human deaths and to say bye, But we know, of course, don't we, that the Tuatha Dé Danann are ever living. But he is here apparently talking about others, such as the Milesians. Upon such a subject, however, one may legitimately take sides. Were King Conor and his Ultonian champions, Finn and his Fenians, Arthur and his knights, once living men round whom the attributes of gods have gathered? Or were they ancient deities renamed and stripped of some of their divinity to make them more akin to their human worshippers? A good question. History or mythology? Question mark. A mingling, perhaps, of both. I love the fact that he's considering all possibilities, which is something that we like to do here on Mythical Ireland. It's the same as the megalithic art. You can never say this is definitely what it means. You can put forward a very convincing theory, but you can never definitely know for sure. Peter Kennedy is joining us in Balbriggan. Good evening to you, Peter. Hope the sun is shining down the coast from us. Tea has the kettle on. Brilliant stuff. Make mine a decaf hazelnut latte, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Cuchulainn may have been the name of a real Gaelic warrior. However, suspiciously, he may now resemble the sun god, who is said to have been his father. And of course, that was Lugh Lovefather, or Lugh MacEthnan. His, it's like, in a way, we've spoken about how Angus took over Sheed Broga from his father, the Dagda. And his father, the Dagda, was undoubtedly a solar deity because he controlled the weather and the harvest, and he was called the Red-Eyed, all that stuff. And because he made the sun stand still while he went into Newgrange to make love with Bowen. Is it possible that what we see with Lugh and Cuchulainn is a similar idea? That Cuchulainn is taking over the mantle, taking on the mantle of Sun God. Now, he's also a warrior who hacks other warriors' heads off by the dozen. Interesting in this regard is the fact that as a boy, Cuchulainn was called Setanta, and we all know, because I've said it on many a live stream and written it in my books, and it's on my website, that Setanta was conceived at Newgrange by Lugh and Dectana at Sheed Broga. Him and Angus share one attribute. They were both conceived inside Newgrange. Paddy Shaw, hiya Kharja, hope all are well. A trip to the islands sounds fab. It doesn't it, Paddy? It absolutely does. And you know what? If there's a few of us with musical instruments, I play a little bit of low whistle, but I don't play any fast stuff because I'm useless. But if there was people with a banjo or a bowron or uilleann pipes, we could have quite an adventure, And wouldn't it be brilliant to do a live stream when we're heading out across the sea? Do a live stream from up on Dún Valor, go to the pub on what's called the social club, is it, on Tory, have a coupla scoopla, back on the boat in the evening time. Wouldn't it be a scream, Lily Shambles is asking T if there are any scones. Yeah, I would like a scone if there's one on the go. Thank you. Monica says, God of lightning and thunder here, as well as the God of wind and rain. Well, we hope the sun god comes to you sooner or later. King Conor may have been the real chief of a tribe of Irish Celts before he became an adumbration of the Celtic sky god. It is the same problem that confronts us in dealing with the heroic legends of Greece and Rome. While Achilles, Agamemnon, Odysseus, Paris, Aeneas, were... Read that again, Anthony. Stop making silly mistakes. Were Achilles, Agamemnon, Odysseus, Paris, Aeneas gods, demigods, or men? Let us call them all alike, whether they be Greek or Trojan heroes, Red Branch champions, or followers of the Gaelic Finn or the British Arthur. Demigods. Even so, they stand definitely apart from their older gods, who were greater than they were. We are stretching no point in calling them demigods, for they were God-descended. Cuchulainn, the greatest hero of the Ulster cycle, was doubly so, for on his mother's side he was the grandson of Dagda, while Lugh of the Long Hand is said to have been his father. His mother Dectera, also sometimes spelled Dectine, Tine rather than Tiore. His mother Dectine, daughter of Maga, the daughter of Angus, son of the young, was half-sister to King Conor, and all the other principal heroes were of hardly less lofty descent. So let me just work that out for a second. So his Setanta's mother, Cuchulainn, as a boy was called Setanta. Setanta's mother, Dectana, was a granddaughter of Angus. So there you go, there's another connection. Angus was conceived at Sheed Broga, and his great-grandson, Setanta, his mother, Dectana, Setanta's mother, Dectana, was daughter of Maga, daughter of Angus. So she was a granddaughter of Angus, so he was a great-grandson. Am I right? That's interesting. I didn't know that before. Setanta, a great-grandson of Angus Og. Wow. And I'm just taking margin notes here. I apologize. Both conceived at Shedenbroga. Wow. Fascinating. You learn something new every day. I mean, I've read this book before. Some of it doesn't stick. It just doesn't. Because there's so much of it. You know? Where did Charles Squire get that from, says Mvanwe. That is an interesting question. And actually, a more reliable source, academic source on this would be Mark Williams' Ireland's Immortals, which I might check. I'm not going to do that now because I'm just conscious of the fact that I've done so much rabbit holing that I've only got 3 pages read, and I need to get at least 10 read in this episode or for it to keep on track. Remind me to check that, Mvanwe. I am interested in where he got that from. Because there are genealogies, but they are Williams and others have talked about how confusing they are because they conflict with each other quite often. So his mother Dectana, daughter of Maga, the daughter of Angus, son of the Young, was half sister to King Conor. So Conor and Conchovar and Dectara were half brother, half sister. And all the other principal heroes were of hardly less lofty descent. It is small wonder that they are described in ancient manuscripts as terrestrial gods and goddesses. And there's a footnote there saying that Conchovar is called a terrestrial god of the Ultonians in the Book of the Dun Cow, Laur Hira, and Dectera is termed a goddess in the Book of Leinster. Fascinating stuff. Terrestrial they may have been in form, but their acts were superhuman. Indeed, compared with the more modest exploits of the heroes of the Iliad, they were those of giants. Where Greek warriors slew their tens, these Ultonians dispatched their hundreds. And when they say Ultonians, they're referring to the Ulad, who were a tribe, as it were, who ruled part of what is now Ulster in the north of Ireland. They came home after such exploits so heated that their cold baths boiled over. Wow. Put on the water from. Turn on the immersion. No need. I'll just step into the bath and it'll boil. Fascinating stuff. Yes. And now I've lost my place. When they sat down to meat, meat, they devoured whole oxen and drank their mead from vats. That's my kind of drinking party, folks. I'm just saying. When we're on Tory Island up at Dunvalora, we'll be eating whole cows and drinking mead from vats. With one stroke of their favourite swords, they beheaded hills for sport. The gods themselves hardly did more, and it is easy to understand that in those old days, not only might the sons of gods look upon the daughters of men and find them fair, but immortal women also need not be too proud to form passing alliances with mortal men. Fascinating stuff. Polly Mathing says, no need for a kettle, I'll boil the tea. Yeah, just stick my finger into it. Kathy Maydeo has joined us on a late lunch. Brilliant stuff. You're very welcome, Kathy. Hope you have a lovely lunch and that you enjoy the stories. T wants to know which butchers he or she should avoid. Apologies, I'm not sure of gender, and apologies if I'm not getting it right. Fantastic. Some of the older deities seem to have already passed out of memory at the time of the compilation of the Ulster cycle. At any rate, they make no appearance in it, which is fascinating because they do make an appearance in the Finn cycle, which is the one that apparently comes after the Ulster cycle. Don't remember. Don't remember. Don't forget, Anthony. We did, didn't we? We did do episodes on the Battle of the White Strand. Finthry. Yeah, we did. Episode number 126 was the Battle of the White Strand, part 1. Episode 127, part 2. Part 3 was episode 128. So yes, we have indeed covered that. But the Dé Dananns come to the aid of the Fianna in their battle against Dara Dun and the armies of the world in the Battle of the White Strand. Sorry, apologies, T. T is a man. Good stuff. Celtic gods, says Brendan Byrne, were always hungry and thirsty. The Dagda's cauldron, the undry. No matter how much you ate or drank from it, it was always full. Stephen, whose name is Shields, is chilling in the back garden, watching the sunset, listening to your live show. Doesn't that sound like bliss? Except for the listening to me a bit. The rest of it sounds nice. T is Tony. I'm Anthony too. Brilliant stuff. Mr. T. Well, I think we called you that last week. Let us not call you Mr. T. Let us just call you T. Tony, nice to meet you. At any rate, they make no appearance in it. That is the Ulster cycle. Dead Nuada rests in the Greenon of Aileach, which is the stone fort in on the peninsula, the Thingamy Peninsula, the Malin Head, the what's it called? Swilly Inishowen. Yeah, thank you, brain, for connecting the dots. It's little mice scurrying around looking through filing cabinets. Ogma now lies in She Arkeltree, while the Dagda, thrust into the background by his son Angus, mixes himself very little in the affairs of Éireann. He is last heard of as chief cook to Conor the Great, the mythical king of Ireland. Conor O'More. Wow, I never knew that either. The Dagda faded into the background a little bit after Angus tricked him out of Sheedinbroga, or Newgrange. But the Morrigu, Sheedinbroga being its old and proper name. But the Morrigu is no less eager in encouraging human or semi-divine heroes to war than she was when she received the fainting spirits of the folk of the goddess Danu, the Tuatha Dé Danann, at the Battle of Moytura. The gods who appear most often in the cycle of the Red Branch of Ulster are the same that have lived on throughout with the most persistent vitality. And this is something that we have said repeatedly about the Tuatha Dé Danann. They never died, they never really went away, they're always there. Polymathing is making a very interesting linguistic connection there. Two Anthonys. Two Annies. Yes. Tom King is in the house, finally. Tom, we were talking about the making of gold items earlier on. Yeah. Good to see you, by the way. Thank you for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend in Slane. We were just explaining earlier about how, your sun pendant has been very popular and that the ones that you were making were for Ishnok and Slane, but that you're hoping now to make a stock that we can make available on the website. So I was just telling the Tua to keep an eye on the social media over the next week or two, that hopefully we'll get the sun pendants up on the website soon so that people can order them. Peter Kennedy wants to know, where exactly is She Cletchy? I've written about this in my Mythical Ireland book. Cletchuk is almost certainly on the site of what is now Rossnaree House, overlooking the bend of the Boyne and looking across at Nouth and Newgrange. Lou the Long-Handed, Angus of the Brew, Midger, Bove the Red, Bove Jarug, and Manannán son of Lear, Manannán Mac Lear, are the principal deities that move in the background of the stage where the chief parts are now played by the mortals. Which is interesting when you think about it, right? Because straight away there you have Lou, who's got an association with Newgrange, Angus, who's got an association with Newgrange, Midger, who's got an association with Brunabonia, although his she was at Bree in Longford, Arda. Bove the Red is Angus's brother. He's a son of the Dagda, another connection with Newgrange there. And Manannán, whose ocean sweeper, the boat, was apparently said to have come up the Boyne. Am I right in saying that? Isn't that in Elizabeth Hickey's book? But to make up for the loss of some of the greater divine figures, the ranks of the gods are being recruited from below. All manner of inferior divinities claim to be members of the tribe of the Tuatha Dé Danann. The goblins and sprites and demons of the air who shrieked around battles are described collectively as Tuatha Dé Danann. And he has a footnote there saying in the Book of Leinster, but doesn't specify exactly where. As for the Fomors or the Fomorians, the aforementioned, they have lost their distinctive names, though they are still recognized as dwellers beneath the deep, who at times raid upon the coast and do battle with the heroes over whom Conchobar ruled at Owen Macha. This seat of his government, the traditionary site of which is still marked by an extensive prehistoric entrenchment called Navan Fort near Armagh, was the centre of an Ulster that stretched southwards as far as the Boyne, and round its ruler gathered such a galaxy of warriors as Ireland had never seen before or will again. So that's something that is very interesting. Ulster stretching all all the way down to the River Boyne, and at the moment I'm involved in a campaign to try and get city status for Drogheda, because our town is growing at a massive rate, and we're seeing all this residential development, but we want to make sure that the town is running its own affairs. We're looking for a local administration with a local city manager to make sure that we plan properly for the future, that we have a sustainable town, that we have enough job creation. But of course, I will be placing a significant emphasis on the heritage of our area. And one of the things I've been saying is that for far too long, the Boyne River has been seen as something that divides territories. It's a divisional marker. It's a border between, for instance, the counties of Louth and Meath, between the Archdiocese of Armagh and the Archdiocese of Meath, between the province of Ulster, between the province of Leinster, between the kingdoms of Erimone and Everfin, when they carved Ireland into two after the success of the Milesians. The Boyne was dividing. And I'm saying now that we should look at the Boyne as a unifying thing. A unifying presence, that the goddess Bowen will actually bring us together. So that's something that you may see more of on social media over the next while, is that Drogheda has long been a town, but is growing so rapidly that we reckon we will very soon pass the 50,000 population mark required to be declared Ireland's newest city. They call themselves the champions of the Red Branch. There was not one of them who was not a hero, but they're all dwarfed by one splendid figure, Cuchulainn, whose name means Cullen's hound. Mr. Alfred Nutt calls him the Irish Achilles, while Professor Rees would rather see him in a Heracles of the Gaels, or Hercules. Like Achilles, he was the chosen hero of his people, invincible in battle, and yet, quote, at once to early death and sorrows, doomed beyond the lot of man, unquote. While, like Heracles, his life was a series of wonderful exploits and labours. It matters little, though, for the lives of all such mythical heroes must be, of necessity, somewhat alike. Yes, the House of Kletchuk is exactly right, Peter. And I reckon that is where Rossnary House stands today. Yes, and of course, I wrote about it in the Finn monograph. Yes, indeed, I did. But I think there's more. I think there's more about it in the Mythical Ireland book. If Achilles and Heracles were, as some think, personifications of the sun, Cuchulainn is not less so. Most of his attributes, as the old stories record them, are obviously solar symbols. So this is fascinating stuff. Cuchulainn the warrior, a survival, as it were, of the old idea of a sun deity. Dennis Dwyer is in the house. No need for apologies, Dennis. This is a no-brown zone. We are very glad to have your company on tonight's episode. What time are we on? Oh, geez, we're over an hour already. Geez, time flies when you're having fun. He seemed generally small and insignificant, yet when he was at his full strength, no one could look him in the face without blinking, while the heat of his constitution melted snow for 30 feet all round him. He turned red and hissed as he dipped his body into its bath, the sea. Terrible was his transformation when sorely oppressed by his enemies, as the sun is by mist, storm, or eclipse. At such times, quote, among the aerial clouds over his head were visible the virulent pouring showers and sparks of ruddy fire, which the seething of his savage wrath caused to mount up above him. His hair became tangled about his head, as it had been branches of a red thorn bush stuffed into a strongly fenced gap. And the quote continues. Taller Thicker, more rigid, longer than mast of a great ship, was the perpendicular jet of dusky blood, which out of his scalp's very central point shot upwards, and then was scattered to the 4 cardinal points. And this is one of the descriptions that led our friend Patrick McCafferty to suggest that we're talking here about comets in Irish mythology. Very interesting episode if you're interested of live Irish myths in conversation. I spoke at length with Patrick McCafferty about. Sorry, I need to find it here. About his suggestion, his theory that comets are mentioned in Irish mythology. So let me just get that link for you and share that to you. So, especially for the newcomers, this was aired during the pandemic lockdowns of 2020, 2021. So it might be something that you're interested in watching perhaps later on or later in the week. An interesting discussion of how comets might have been featured in Irish mythology. Whereby they formed after the. So I'll read that again. Taller, thicker, more rigid, longer than mast of a great ship, was the perpendicular jet of dusky blood, which out of his scalp's very central point shot upwards and then was scattered to the 4 cardinal points, whereby was formed a magic mist of gloom resembling the smoky pall that drapes a regal wedding, what time a king at nightfall of a winter's day draws near to it. And he has a footnote there saying, unquote, by the way, end of quote. The footnote says that's from On Toynbee Cuilne, as translated by Standish Hayes O'Grady. Give me one moment. I just need to take a note here somewhere else. Apologies for the distractions. O'Grady was one who I hadn't got on my list. I'm compiling a list of these scholars who I want to write about, to have a comprehensive article about the giants upon whose shoulders we stand. Standish Hayes O'Grady. I need to add him to my list. Now, I might be only writing a paragraph or two about some of these and more about others, but I think that they are due great praise for their work in translating, transcribing, and preserving Irish mythology. So marvellous a being was, of course, of marvellous birth. Oswald Spengler is asking, did I hear about how the Scotsman escaped the lockdowns? He fled to camp in the nearby Loch Dunes. Yes. I hate to admit it, but that joke is right up my alley. So marvellous a being was, of course, of marvellous birth. His mother, Dectera, was on the point of being married to an Ulster chieftain called Soltum, and was sitting at the wedding feast when a May fly flew into her cup of wine and was unwittingly swallowed by her. Of course, that happens in Tuchmar Gitane as well, doesn't it? That same afternoon, spoken rather grandly, Anthony, that same afternoon, she fell into a deep sleep. And in her dream, the sun god Lu appeared to her and told her that it was he whom she had swallowed and bore within him. He ordered her and her 50 attendant maidens to come with him at once, and he put upon them the shapes of birds, so that they were not seen to go. Nothing was heard of them again. But one day, months later, a flock of beautiful birds appeared before Awan Macha and drew out its warriors in their chariots to hunt them. Sorry, I just need to line up a couple of funnies. They followed the birds till nightfall, when they found themselves at the Brew on the Boyne. Of course, we're talking about Newgrange, where the great gods had their homes. As they looked everywhere for shelter, they suddenly saw a splendid palace. A tall and handsome man, richly dressed, came out and welcomed them and led them in. Within the hall were a beautiful and noble-faced woman and 50 maidens. and on the tables were the richest meats and wines, and everything fit for the needs of warriors. So they rested there the night, and during the night they heard the cry of a newborn child. The next morning the man told him who he was, and that the woman was Concovar's half sister Dechtere, and he ordered them to take the child and bring it up among the warriors of Ulster. So they brought him back, together with his mother and the maidens, and Dechtere married Soltham, and all the chiefs, champions, druids, poets, and lawgivers of Ulster vied with one another, bringing up the mysterious infant. At first, they called him Setanta, and this is how he came to change his name. Of course, the following story uh, we have told before, but no harm to tell it again, especially when we have so many newcomers. And so I hope you're all keeping up. I am just going to stop for one moment to check the comments. There is a YouTube video, says Eamon, that I was watching about the history of Scotland. It mentions a place called Cuchulainn, named after the mythical Irish warrior, and states that he had lived there for a while, I presume. Yeah, and of course, the Finn cycle is something that is shared between Ireland and Scottish. Oh my God, was that an attempt at a Scottish accent? Too funny. Oh, hey. Right. That's all I can do. It's a bit like, it's so kitsch. It's like saying to an Irishman, top of the morning to you, you know? It's a bit like Tom Cruise's version of an Irish accent. It's terrible, I know. Eva Barnett is watching from Delaware. Well, good afternoon to you, Eva. Thank you for tuning in to Live Irish Myths. You're very, very welcome. Holly Mathing is delighted. I missed that talk and I'm going to check it out. I presume you're talking about the Comets one. I've often thought the battle between Lugh and Balor could be whatever celestial event happened around the Younger Dryas. It's interesting. It's really interesting, the possibilities, isn't it? Elaine Dent Lingenfelter. Sorry I'm late. Hello from a chilly car. Ah, you're not boasting about the temperature now. Elaine, it's great to see you. We were talking about you earlier on because we have somebody else watching from Texas where it's in the 80s. It's 30.5 Celsius. Climb in the icebox and shut the door, like, you know. Anyway, yes. Anthony, don't try to do Scottish accents. At first they called him Setanta, and this is how he came to change his name. While still a child, he was the strongest of the boys of Owen Macha and the champion in their sports. One day he was playing hurley single-handed against all the others and beating them. When Concovar the king, Connor is a way of shortening that, tripping up of consonants. Concovar, I like to call him, but a lot of people know him as Conor MacNessa. When Concovar the king rode by with his nobles on the way to a banquet given by Cullen, the chief smith of the Ultonians. Cullen, and we think of Ongawa Govnu being the Tuatha Dé Danann smith. Well, we have a later version of that in the Ulster cycle, Cullen, the Ulster smith. Concovar called to the boy, inviting him to go with them, and he replied that when the game was finished, he would follow. As soon as the Ulster champions were in Cullen's hall, the smith asked the king's leave to unloose his terrible watchdog. Yes. I call, what is it? I call my dogs Swatch and Timex. They're watchdogs. Never mind, that's a terrible joke. Which was as strong and fierce as 100 hounds. And Concovar, forgetting that the boy was to follow them, gave his permission. In other words, they're letting out this beastly hound, and the poor little Setanta is way out there somewhere playing hurling and doesn't know that the hound is going to come upon him. Immediately the hound saw Setanta coming. It rushed at him, open-mouthed. But the boy flung his playing ball into its mouth, and then, seizing it by the hind legs, dashed it against a rock till he had killed it. Of course, there is an alternative version of that story, which is that what Cuchulainn was actually doing was using his hurl, which is the the bat or the stick that we use in hurling, and the sliotar, which is the ball. And what he was actually doing was throwing the sliotar up and throwing the hurl up in such a way as to hit the sliotar and run and catch both of them. And he was doing this trick. He was renowned for doing great trickery as a hurler. And that when he saw the hound, the alternative version, which is my favorite version, and I think this is the version that is most widely known, is that when he saw Cullen's hound running towards him, he threw the ball in the air and gave it the sliotar and gave it a mighty whack with the hurl, and the ball went into the dog's mouth, and he had hit it so hard that it went down through the dog's body and dragged its insides out its rear end. That's what I'm calling the official version. The smith Cullen was very angry at the death of his dog, for there was no other hound in the world like him for guarding a house and flocks. So Setanta promised to find and train up another one, not less good for Cullen, and until it was trained, to guard the smith's house as though he were a dog himself. This is why he was called Cuchulainn, that is, Cullen's hound. And Cathad the Druid prophesied that the time would come when the name would be known. Would be in every man's mouth, but known in every man's mouth. And of course, that time is today and has been for a long time. Pretty much everybody in Ireland who's been at least reared and educated in Ireland knows of the existence of Cuchulainn and knows the story of how Setanta slaughtered the hound. Monica Regley met Michael Quirk in Sligo. Brilliant stuff. Michael's such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. He was telling me about the Irish Wolves. The Wolves are watching, he told me. Wow. I have a long interview with Michael for patrons. I'm not sure at what level. I think the Bronze Age level and above. Myself and a filmmaker friend, Grant Wakefield, visited Michael for a day last year. And we made a film. And it is it's wonderful because it's just Michael telling his stories and carving his wood. And I'm so delighted that I was able to do it because he is something of a real ancient Shanachie, just like something from the Middle Ages or from prehistory, you know. Not long after this, by the way, Michael operates out of a shop that used to be his father's butcher shop in Wine Street in Sligo town. If any of you are ever in that vicinity, do call in to see Michael. And he has the name Quirk on the sign of the shop. And you'll see the wood carvings in the window, unless when we visited, he hadn't got many left because he'd been so successful in selling them. Absolutely no surprise. What a wonderful storyteller and wood carver. And a wonderful, wonderful proponent of Irish mythology and custom and culture. And a very, very nice man to boot. Not long after this, Cuchulainn overheard Cathad giving druidical instruction, and one of his pupils asking him what day would be propitious for. What that day would be propitious for. Cathad replied that if any young man first took arms on that day, his name would be greater than that of any other heroes, but his life would be short. At once the boy went to King Conchobar, Connor, and demanded arms and a chariot. Conchobar asked him who had put such a thought into his head, and he answered that it was Cathad the Druid. He told me, today's a good day to take up arms. So Conchobar gave him arms and armour and sent him out with a charioteer. That evening, Cuchulainn brought back the heads of 3 champions who had killed many of the warriors of Ulster. He was then only 7 years old. You wouldn't read it in a Stephen King novel, I tell you. Very interesting, says Anya Ryan. I visited Coo's supposed birth and burial place in Dundalk recently. Dundalga. Yes, indeed. The Castletown Mound, or Moat. Fascinating place. Kathy May is looking forward to coming to Ireland. 2.5 years to wait. Yes, that definitely would seem like forever. Can't wait to visit Newgrange, etc. Mr. Anthony and Mr. King's Forge. Told my son all about the Tua and he's excited to visit. Can't wait. Brilliant stuff. I'm looking forward to meeting you and indeed Mariana Dunn. And it's been a great pleasure after the ending of the pandemic to have actually met so many of the people who watched the live streams during the lockdowns. And I'm looking forward to meeting many, many more of you in the future. I just have 2 pages to go and we'll stop at that stage, which will be, I think, this chapter is going to probably take 3 episodes, but I think we're okay with that, aren't we? Barbara is suggesting that Setanta was a leap year baby, or Cuchulainn, so that 7 times 4 is, yeah, that he was more like 28. That actually makes a certain amount of sense, Barbara. Yeah. The women of Ulster so loved Cuchulainn after this that the warriors grew jealous and insisted that a wife should be found for him. But Cuchulainn was very hard to please. He would have only one, Emer, the daughter of Forgall the Wily, the best maiden in Ireland for the 6 gifts: the gift of beauty, the gift of voice, the gift of sweet speech, the gift of needlework, the gift of wisdom, and the gift of chastity. So, ladies, if you're looking for stereotypical ideas from the medieval period as to what talents would ingratiate you with the great heroes, there you go. They are beauty, voice, sweet speech, needlework, wisdom, and chastity. Yes, indeed. So he went to woo her, but she laughed at him for a boy. Then Cuchulainn swore by the gods of his people that he would make his name known wherever the deeds of heroes were spoken of, and Emer promised to marry him if he could take her from her warlike kindred. That sounds like a challenge for a young warrior. That sounds like another of the initiatory moments in the path of the warrior, as it were, in his rites of passage, you know. When Forgall, her father, came to know of this I can't pronounce it, betrothal. Let's try that again, actually. Cut that bit out, will you? Yeah, yes. Let's cut that bit out and stitch the 2 segments together. When Forgall, her father, came to know of this betrothal, he devised a plan to put an end to it. Betrothal. There's no H in the first instance. It's Betrothal. 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 I keep trying to say betrothal. Betrothal. I still can't say it. I can't say it effortlessly. This plan for marriage. He went to visit King Conchobar at Awanmacha. There he pretended to have heard of Cuchulainn for the first time, and he saw him do all his feats. Yes, he had a pedicure. Doing all his feats. I'll get my coat. Sorry. Sorry, where were we? He said, loud enough to be overheard by all, that if so promising a youth dared to go to the island of Squire, the Amazon, in the east of Alba, as in Scotland, usually identified here, he says, with the island of Skye, and learn all her warrior craft, no living man would be able to stand before him. It was hard to reach Squires Isle, and still harder to return from it, and Forgall felt certain that, if Cuchulainn went, he would get his death there, and that would be the end of that, and no more talk about betrothal, you know. Giddy time, I feel, says Brendan. Yes. In my defence, says Lily Shambles, I can at least cook. In fact, why was that not on the list? A very good question. Apparently because the gods had cauldrons that produced plenty of food, so nobody needed to cook. Just guessing, you know. They just ate their ox, you know. They ate their oxen on the hoof, almost, you know. Oh, let me just check that I haven't missed any comments. A lot of people chatting with each other, which is always wonderful to see, except for when it's distracting. How are you concentrating on the story when you're all chatting? Cunis. Oh, be a conch in on Shomer show. Of course, I jest. I completely jest. We're nearly finished. Nearly finished. Of course, nothing would now satisfy Cuchulainn but going. His two friends, Leira, the battle winner, and Conall the victorious. There's a cartoon. It's possibly a Gary Larson Far Side cartoon, and I don't remember exactly it, but it's Alexander, and his mother is chiding him, saying, you need to do better. And his name at the time was Alexander the Just Adequate, Alexander the Adequate. You need to do better. In other words, you need to become Alexander the Great, something like that. I've probably completely ruined it by trying to explain it. But before they had gone far, they lost heart and turned back. This is Leira the battle winner and Conall the victorious, which sound like brave guys, except for when you go to the Isle of Skye, when they suddenly go, I'm afraid of water. I'm not going. Ted, I need to go back home. I'm scared. I want me mammy. Cuchulainn went on alone. See, because he wasn't afraid. He wasn't a namby-pamby, He wasn't a little wimp. He was a real warrior, killing other warriors at 7 years old, for which, in modern Ireland, he'd be put away in a child detention centre for a long time. Cuchulainn went on alone, crossing the plain of ill luck, the sort of plain where you don't play poker, where men's feet stuck fast, while sharp grasses sprang up and cut them, and through the perilous glens, full of devouring wild beasts, until he came to the bridge of the cliff, which rose on end till it stood straight up like a ship's mast as soon as anyone put a foot on it. 3 times Cuchulainn tried to cross it, and thrice he failed. Then anger came into his heart, and a magic halo shone round his head, and he did his famous feat of the hero's salmon leap, and landed in one jump on the middle of the bridge, and then slid down it as it rose up on end. And of course, if you've seen a salmon jumping a weir, you'll know exactly how impressive that sort of feat is. Vanry says, thank goodness this isn't a ghost story night. Yeah, the last time I told ghost stories, my voice started to go all Darth Vaderish. Remember that? Pardon me. I have a crumb in my mouth. Scahawk was in the dune with her 2 sons, the dune being an Irish word for a fort. Cuchulainn went to her and put his sword to her breast and threatened to kill her if she would not teach him all her own skill in arms. Well, if she's better than he is, I imagine putting his sword against her would have been futile. But let us read on. So he became her pupil. Wow. Apparently that's exactly the way to get Scahawk to agree to train you, is to threaten her with a sword. And she taught him all her warcraft. Let me just check the page count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, okay. I think we need to finish now. In return, Cuchulainn helped her against a rival queen of the Amazons called Aoife. He conquered Aoife and compelled her to make peace with Scahawk. Wow, he conquered her rather than killing her. At least that's something, And then he returned to Ireland, of which we will read more anon. Yes, next week, that is, folks. Because an hour and a half on, I think you've had enough. And you're probably going to say, no, we haven't, Anthony. We'd gladly sit here and listen to more. But I would like to see a remake of the Siege of Troy. But instead of a giant wooden horse, I'd like to see them using a giant sheep. Wouldn't you? I'll get my coat. Oh, hang on. Here's a piece of tumbleweed. That's everybody's face right now. Hang on. Yeah, I told you, didn't I? Did I tell you? I'm getting annoyed with people moaning. I did today. I'm getting annoyed with people moaning. €2.50 for a cup of tea, €2.20 for a coffee, €2 for a cupcake. If people keep moaning, I'll tell you, I'm just not going to invite them around anymore. Is there one more? Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember. Do me a favor. I'm trying to remember the name of a comedy show from the 80s. It was about a bar somewhere in Boston, I believe, run by a guy called Sam. If any of you guys can help me out on this one, I would be grateful. Cheers. Oh yes, and solar power is the future, but it won't happen overnight. Barbara Murphy rightly says crickets. Yep. This is where everybody, detecting that the end of the class is coming, everybody's getting their coats on and has all their pencils packed into their pencil case and has all their books put away in their satchel, and they're just like going, when is the bell going to ring? I need to get out of here quickly. I hope those people who are saying cheers are not seriously answering the question. If you're seriously answering the question, you didn't get the joke. Could that possibly be? Mavanway says, was that a joke? Well, actually, it was an attempt at humor. Yeah. Yes. A man asked the waitress, can I ask you about the menu, please? She said, the menu, please, are none of your business. Yes. Yeah. Do you like chess jokes? I once went for a meal with Gary Kasparov. It was a checkered tablecloth, and it took him 2 hours to pass the salt. Yes. Anyway, your jokes somehow managed to get cornier every single. Thank you, Peter. The first genuine compliment I've had in a while. Thank you, much obliged. I'm trying. Yeah, it's like that one, Private Murphy, I did not see you at camouflage training this morning. Thank you, Sergeant. Brendan Byrne needs a dram. I think some of us need more than a dram. What's green and goes up and down? A gooseberry in a lift. Anyway, that's enough. I can brag about warm weather in Carlow, says Elaine. No, you can't, because it's not warm there. Oh, I'm joking, of course. It's warm for Ireland. It's cold for Texas. I bet you've got two jumpers on, Elaine. Pat says, sorry, I answered your question before you ended. Very funny. We all need one now. Pass the whiskey around, folks. Okay, all right, I get it. Anyway, look, do keep an eye out for more upcoming information about Mythical Ireland tours, public tours this summer. Looking forward to meeting a whole heap of you, hopefully. What is a wanderine? Says Monica. I don't know. Is there a punchline? Samantha is suggesting these are Christmas cracker jokes. I take offense at that, Samantha. These are far better than Christmas cracker jokes. These are a whole different level of corny. Igawa, Adrian, thank you for joining us. The Libad. The Siege of Troy. It's bad. Michael Trott is saying good morning from New Zealand. Michael, we're just finishing, but I'm delighted to say good morning to you and indeed to see you on the live stream. We've just finished, unfortunately, for this week. I've been telling a few jokes, after which there was tumbleweed blowing through the library here. Alan Hoskins bought a pair of camouflage trousers today. Can't find them now. So what was that? What is a wanderine? Says Monica. And the answer is a tangerine on a hike. Cue more tumbleweed. See you, Mandy. Thanks for tuning in. And Helen is yes, have a great week, everybody. Absolutely. And if you can't have a great week, have a fantastic week. In the meantime, do not forget to keep an eye on the social media on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter. We'll be back this time next week with part 2 of the Irish Iliad. Excuse me for my ridiculous hiccups. And of course, don't forget to, if you would like to, please do consider becoming a patron of Mythical Ireland and supporting the good work. I think it's good. You don't have to pay for the jokes. They're free. Desiree says, good night, everyone. See you all next week. Yeah, not a sound out of Coda tonight. Very disappointing. I'm sure Amadeus is like, what's going on there? Like, she's sitting watching this and there's no sign of me friends at all. Just in case I'm missing anybody else. Thank you, Alan. Have a great one. We'll see you next week, if not sooner. Monica, you have a great night, a great evening, a great good afternoon, good evening, and good night. As what's his name? What's that movie? Fake World, all televised. Oh, the Truman Show. Yes, I knew that would. Thank you again for the little mice running around through the heap of filing systems. Yes, filing things, filing folder, Yokomi buzzers. Eva Barnett, have a wonderful week. You also, Eva. Thanks for the tea. Oh, Peter just caught the end. Good jokes hour, all is well. Well, Peter, I met your. Oh yes, we had that conversation, didn't we? I met your son at Ishnok, and I told him to make sure to say hello to you. Anyway, that is all we have time for now. Thank you all for joining us. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so that you will get notifications of future live streams. And I suppose we'll talk to you very soon. In the meantime, as the sun has gone down, we look forward to, actually, when I'm here, just check. Oh, I do. I see both the moon and Venus. We look forward to the possibility of getting a nice photograph of them this evening. The crescent moon and the evening star, the cow and the calf, are out there in the evening in the western sky. So do make sure to have a look for them wherever you are in the world this evening after sunset. Take it handy, slán go fóill, Ichawa Kulasov, and most importantly, Tóg go bugé. Definitely take it easy. Bye. Yes, end stream.